What's up everyone, welcome back to yet another video, and today we will look at the game played between Vladimir Kramnik and Viswanathan Anand back in 2007. It really was a game not full of explosions, but a game of 1,000 gunshots, which will lead to quite a bit of damage in the long run as well, believe me. So we have d4 and we have a queen's gambit accepted on the board. I'm gonna go quickly over the first few moves, as there are really nothing special. We have castles by white, and now a6 already preparing to kick this bishop back. So we already have a voluntary retreat before that can happen. So we have now capture in the center of the board, and white decides to take back with their pawn. So Kramnik creates an isolated pawn in the center of the board. So we have now knight to c6 and knight to c3, bishop e7, bishop g5. So simply developing your pieces. Nothing special to be done here. And now we have castles by black. So now queen to d2, preparing or already activating the queen a little bit. And now knight to a5, attacking the bishop on b3. So we have it drop back to c2. All right, now black really lashes out with the move b5, and we have queen over to f4, activating the queen furthermore, and also probably preparing to bring it over to h4, where it will put a lot of pressure on the h7 square. So now we have rook to a7 and rook to a1, simply activating the rook. And we have bishop to b7. Which move in this position does Vladimir Kramnik play? I'm going to give you a few seconds to try to find it. So if you could find the move, congratulations. It's the move b5 as our d5, sacrificing the pawn in the center of the board. And after this variation, swinging the queen over to h4, putting a lot of pressure on the h7 square. You basically threaten to capture the knight here, and then you will checkmate. So we have the move h5 to defend for black, and now we have another centralization of the rook with the rook f to e1. Now knight back to c6 and g4. Kramnik really doesn't hesitate. You of course cannot take this pawn, as I will simply capture your knight and after that checkmate you. So we have queen up to d6. Kramnik doesn't hesitate again. He takes the pawn, and Wishy plays the move b4, queen to b4, and offers a queen trade. Kramnik doesn't refuse it, but he also doesn't take the queen. He simply waits until he gets taken. So we have h6 on the board, and now trade of queens. Now knight to e4, basically attacking this bishop twice, but before Kramnik decides what he will do with this bishop, he first throws in this in-between move with pawn takes g7. Of course, you cannot take the pawn with your king because knight to f5 will simply be devastating. So we have rook over to c8, and now there is an exchange of a few pieces. And yeah, also black regains the pawn on g7. So white is one pawn up now in an endgame, but there are still two rooks and a knight each on the board. So let's see what Kramnik can do with that. We have a rook lift deep into black's territory, and black is bringing the rook as well. So rook to c5. Now we have rook g4 check and king to h7. Knight back to f3, preparing to bring the knight to g5, and there's really nothing good that black can do to prevent this. So we have knight to g6 and now knight to g5 check. King to g7, and here in this position there's a small tactic. You can try to spot it. I'm gonna give you a few seconds to do that. So yeah, the tactic of course is taking the pawn on f7 because you remove the defender on the black's knight, and you also expose a double attack on the knight. So we have simply rook captures knight, and now king to h7. So white is already up 2 pawns in a rook hand game. So we have a simplification to a pair of rook gets off the board, and now it's simply a matter of technique by Vladimir Kramnik to be able to win this game. So we have rook to c1 check, king up to g2, rook to b1, and now rook to a5. Of course, black captures the rook, captures the pawn on b2, and now we have the last move of the game. Can you find the last move which Vladimir Kramnik played in the game in 2007 versus Viswanathan Anand? I'm gonna give you a few seconds to try and find it. So, of course, you have to make the decision between either protecting your own pawn or capturing black pawn. And of course, the best move is rook to a4, attacking your own pawn, because you really don't want to give up your pawn on b4, because there are very, very good drawing chances here for black. So it's worth more to protect your own pawn. Don't give it away, because it will always be a distraction for the black pieces on the opposite side of the board from your other pawns. So with split pawns across the board, you really can put a lot more pressure on your opponent, and you're simply in a completely winning position, and Vishy resigned in this position. So it was really a very long fought game, and there were not a lot of big mistakes or big sacrifices, but Kramnik simply put up pressure and pressure and pressure, and he didn't make any single mistake. He didn't even make an inaccuracy. He played this game almost perfectly. So it's a really impressive game again by the former world champion. I hope you enjoyed the game, and I want to thank you a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.